What's the good word, gentlemen? It's your boy Hated. Welcome to the channel, and we are here to do the review of the latest episode of Koutetsujou no Kabaneri. I believe it's episode 6. So let's just get right into it. This episode, we see it going back to the status quo of each episode connecting directly to the end of the last episode, as if it was a train. In this one, we remember the events of what happened in episode 5, where at the end, Mume and Ikoma end up being trapped in a cave that's caved in. At first, I thought it was going to be just like the last episode, where it kind of deviated because it goes through Mume's mind. She remembers more details of that flashback she had in the last episode. The reason that's happening is because of her state currently. She was kind of messed up, and she still is. You'll see more detail of how that happens when you watch the episode. I was worried going through because I'm like, this doesn't seem like it's that action-packed. There's only like two sequences of action, and they serve a purpose, especially the second one. But this one, we see Ikoma stepping into his role as a protector, as a fighter, and you're finding out a lot about him in terms of his abilities now, accidentally. For instance, when he is outnumbered by Kabaneri, Mume tells him, you can't win, there's too many of them, like let that go. And I'm assuming she's saying that because she knows her limits, how many she could take out within the time frame of her, transformation, because you know how she has a limited transformation when she takes off the, I guess, the restrictor. And she's assuming, well, there's too many of them, you don't have the training to do it, you'll be overtaken by them. And surprisingly enough, that's not the case. Like I said before, Ikoma is far more durable than even Mume. That's just the type of Kabaneri he's going to be. He can take a lot more damage. And when his training is improved, that's going to make him immensely more powerful. We also see the introduction of a flask that contains blood now. That's how they're going to be getting their blood transfusion. It's not, I shouldn't say transfusion because they're technically just eating the blood to live. But we're not going to see them constantly cutting themselves to feed the Kabaneri. No, they're going to start just taking blood from, it's actually really smart and efficient when you think about it. They're going to start cutting themselves and saving the blood in canisters so that they can take the blood whenever they need it, which makes sense because if you're in the heat of battle, they wouldn't have the ability to cut themselves and feed them necessarily. And they're not always going to be there with them. And I'm assuming this is something that Ikoma himself thought of. Very smart. Ikoma in this episode is a monster. Like he is a legit beast. And it's very well done. I love what they do with Kurusu. Kurusu is on camera to either be badass in action sequences or give rigid, direct statements in dialogue. And that's it, and I like that because those are the type of characters I like. We finally see him, all the things we've been saying beforehand, completely true. We finally see him unsheath the new blade that Ikoma made. He finally uses Ikoma's blade. And the dialogue between Kurusu and Ikoma, and he tells Ikoma, I'm going to use this blade. And Ikoma essentially tells him, I'm paraphrasing, of course, because I don't want to spoil everything. Don't blame the blade if you die. As if to say, yes, you can use my blade, but, if it doesn't work how it's supposed to, this can't be another thing you just blame on me. Because I guess they're starting to get kind of tired how everything that goes bad with their interactions with the Kabaneri and their trip to Kogokana, they seem to blame the Kabaneri. And it's like, well, it's not all their fault. They're trying to help you get there. Things are happening on your journey there that they can't help. And yet these people, they continue to blame them for everything. They were ready to abandon them. When the 6 chiefs were talking to Yame in the train, when they were trying to make a plan, when Yame was actually talking to the pink-haired girl, who we finally hear her name in the episode, her name is Yukina. When she's talking to Yukina and asking if it was possible for them to just leave, retreat back the way they came, and she explains no because, and I'm assuming it's because it would go through they'd be going through a mountain pass, which means they couldn't go as fast, and it might be slightly uphill. So they wouldn't be able to manifest the speed necessary to escape the monster once they left the chamber that they were in anyway. It would be suicide to go back. They have to go forward. That's the only way they're going to get the speed to escape. When Ayame is talking to Yukina about this, the 6 chiefs are like, well, why don't we just try and plow through and take minimal damage and just plow through and abandon the Kabaneri again. And of course, the one person who steps up and says, no, we can't do that, and is kind of defending them, who is it? Takumi, of course, Takumi. The bro-ham of Ikoma steps up in the clutch. Also, you can see on Yukina's face, again, that look of just I hate you cowards when they say that. That character, Yukina is so cool. We find out that she's jacked. That this is a woman that's in shape. She's, I forgot the term for a woman that's in the gym and they still look feminine, but they're cut. It's like she's like bit thick, if you get what I'm saying. Some of you cats know what that is. That's what she is in this. This woman, she's clearly pumping iron. No pun intended, I guess. But she's sure her body is built for the task at hand, which makes sense because she tells you she was an apprentice to a Koutetsujou driver before, which is why she understands how the thing works. We finally hear her name in this episode, so that's cool. Now we just need to figure out the name of the big, brolic Bushi that is always with Koutetsujou, the dude that's in the red, because he's the main character and I don't know his name. They haven't said it in the series, and I refuse to look up the names outside the series. I want the show to give me their names. I'm assuming that's going to happen because the more the characters become involved in the story, the more you find out about them. So maybe that's actually a conscious decision on their part. I'm not sure. There was a scene that really bothered me. Not that it was a bad scene, but it was more so just one of those things where the anime does a really good job of showing you the mind state of the people involved in the series, even the non-main characters. And it's when Mume, after they get back to the Koutetsujou, is deciding what to do with the colony hive-like creature, and they're coming up with their plan to take it out and to leave this abandoned and forsaken area that's just been overrun with the Kabaneri anyway, so they can continue on their journey. And she decides to try and go make amends for what she said to the young boy in episode 5. And she goes to talk to him, and it's like the only reason they forgive her and their understanding of her isn't because she's genuinely sorry. They don't seem to understand that maybe she has a different perspective on the world. She's had different experiences, so that's why she is the way she is. They just classify her as a monster because A, she's a Kabaneri, and B, she thinks differently than them. And the only reason they were willing to accept her is because she was willing to go out there and sacrifice herself in order to stop this monster so they can get on their road. And there was just really, really smug look on the very large woman that made me very upset. So it's like, okay, you hated this woman and you treated her poorly and ostracized her because she said some things that you didn't like and because she's different from you. But oh, when she's willing to go out there and fight a monster that you can't fight yourself, okay, now you're willing to accept her when she's sorry and doing what you need her to do. Something about that bothered me. Like, I hate that idea of just, you have a role, do it, or, be very complacent. I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but there's just a smug look on that large woman's face. I wanted Mume to just slap it off of her. Just like she beat up those other two dudes, like 2 episodes ago, they were fighting on a train. Go slap that fat chick, but maybe I'm reading too much into it. Mume, she's obligated to fight the Kabaneri anyway. We hear her mention again, hey, I don't think she's the only Kabaneri. A large amount of people in her group were Kabaneri. And the reason I say this is because when she's talking to Akoma, tells him that she's not sure what happens when they go for too long with being hungry without getting blood, but she says that all the other people in her group eventually became Kabaneri. So the Kabaneri that she was with before, out of all of them, she's the only Kabaneri left. The rest of them became Kabaneri somehow. Maybe she'll go into more detail about this in the future. But that's interesting because now we're getting more information on the Kabaneri. Are they permanently Kabaneri? Can they transform into Kabaneri if they don't feed? What was interesting to me is when Akoma was charging into fighting the Kabaneri, he lured them to himself by cutting himself so that his blood came out. Now, here's why this was interesting to me. I don't believe Kabaneri are lured to other Kabaneri's blood. They can't be, because in fights, Kabaneri are continuously cut down or destroyed by either the train running them over or things falling on them, or sometimes they just get cut even if they don't die. And their blood doesn't seem to lure other Kabaneri. But for some reason, Akoma's blood was able to lure the Kabaneri to him. The reason I'm asking this is because I assumed that the Kabaneri's blood wasn't human blood. I assumed it was Kabaneri blood. Thus, the Kabaneri wouldn't be attracted to it. It does make sense when you think about it, because the first time Akoma was abandoned by them in episode 1, and he was fighting to try and help them get the train get moving, when he was fighting the Kabaneri, they kept biting him. I guess they didn't recognize him as a Kabaneri. To the Kabaneri are still human. They're not Kabaneri at all. Their blood still is human. So that's more evidence to the fact that the Kabaneri are human. It's just that for some reason they have to feed on blood. And it appears to be human blood. It can't be anything else. I guess it's very Blade-like in that respect, that if you know anything about Blade from Marvel Comics, he's essentially a vampire, and his primary power is that he can walk out in the sun. Most, you guys, you know, vampires, I mean actual vampires, not that Twilight girly crap. Actual vampires, they burn when sunlight hits them for various reasons. Depends on the lore that you follow, but they can't walk out in sunlight. His power primarily was that he could walk in sunlight. That's why they call him the Daywalker. He's a vampire that can walk in sunlight. Also, he is immune to vampire bites. Like, if you bite him or try and transform him into a vampire, it won't work. He's technically already one while still human. But the downfall of that is that he still needs blood to survive. He's a vampire, after all, in part. So he has to feed on blood. Here you have a person who's basically human with some of the powers and abilities of vampires, but on the downside, he has the one huge flaw with them where he has a thirst for blood. Well, that echoes here with the Kabaneri versus the Kabaneri. The Kabaneri are human for all intents and purposes, except for the extreme boost in strength and senses that they get from being almost like the Kabaneri, and the fact that, like the Kabaneri, they need human blood to survive. There's so much more they need to flesh out between the differences of them, the process of making them. I'm hoping we actually see more Kabaneri on screen. Someone has to turn into a Kabaneri. I assume still that Koutetsujou will become one, but I don't know that he needs to. He's so badass as a human already. And they need to explain why, because this dude is he's leagues above all the other humans in this series. I would say he's on the same level as Ikoma and Mume. When he got that blade, the work that man did, I'm talking just Ginsu slicing through everything. They were getting bopped. All of the Kabaneri were getting bopped, easy. And you see, he actually, the blade works, by the way, because he's, you know how a couple episodes back, his old blade, he tried to stab a Wazatori in the heart and the blade shattered. No, that ain't happening this time. That blade works. So, you need to see that action sequence. Everything, the ending action sequence alone, I don't even want to say save this episode, but this episode was wallowing at like a 6.5, 7 out of 10. You know, not horrible, but average. That last action sequence, 8.5 out of 10 for the whole episode. Easy. Because the last action sequence was a 10 out of 10 by itself. I'm giving this episode like an 8 out of 10, 9. Like, it was a great episode. Also, in this episode, we see Sukori, the, I guess, blonde-haired gentleman. The skeptical one. That's how I really classify him. He's the easiest character for someone to relate to being in this situation. He's not like everyone who just believes everything, or he's accepting of everything, or believes in a power or friendship. No, he is very skeptical of a lot of things that are happening, what he's being told, and just wants to be very rational. I'm assuming he's a very intelligent person, because he's the one that came up with the plan to technically save the Kabaneri. I believe he knows that they need the Kabaneri, right? Point blank. But he was smart enough to realize that he couldn't go to these people. He couldn't go to the 6 chiefs in Inayame with a plan just to save them. So he came up with a plan to save them and acquire a tool for the Koutetsujou that would be useful for them to get out of this situation and going into the future. Technically a weapon. So he uses that to mask his actual plan of saving them as well. And it's funny because he's even talking to Ikoma and Mume like, yeah, I saved you, but you were just a bonus. That's not what we were really going for. His intellect is on display there. He's a very good strategician, and he was willing to risk his life again to save, well, I don't know if it was technically his life, because Yukina tells him he could lose his arm, basically releasing a gear shift, because there's a part where they need to speed up, and he has to release the gear shift in order for that to happen. You'll see more when you watch the episode. And he was willing to do that, lose his arm, and possibly more to do that. So it also speaks a lot about this idea of what it means to be strong, what it means to be weak. The idea that the strong deserve to live on and the weak deserve to die. And it handles it in a very interesting way. The reason I say that is because usually anime, cartoons, comics, they have this idea of, oh, it is the duty of the strong to protect the weak. As if the only reason that strong people live or exist is to protect those weaker than them. And I'm like, that's kind of circular. I've never understood that logic growing up. If my sole existence as a person is to become strong so that I can live for everyone else, then what's everyone else doing? What's their motive? What's the motivation for a weak person to become strong so that you can technically live in servitude of everyone else? Like, no, it shouldn't be that. It should be a situation where everyone lives and the strong just are more capable. The strong can take more because no one can stop them from taking it. I believe in that idea. That doesn't necessarily equate to evil. or wrong, but in a situation where two people are stuck and only one of them is going to survive, the stronger person should survive. They shouldn't give themselves so that the weaker person survives. How does that help humanity or better anything? I might have went a little bit too deep into it, but the reason I'm bringing this up is because that topic is touched in this episode. Mume has this idea in her mind that only the strong live. And I believe that's just because of her upbringing and the experiences she's had. She's had to be strong every day of her life, basically, up to this point. She couldn't afford a moment of weakness. Even as a young girl, she's not afforded that. She has to be strong. And she sees in Ikoma a person who is physically now gifted with strength. He is now a strong person, and he's intelligent. Ikoma, in her eyes, is reluctant to accept this truth, where you're alive now, not because of some special power or because of fate. You're alive because you are strong. You are alive because you willed it to be so. She's right in that regard. Most people, when bitten by a Kabane, just give up or kill themselves or just deny it and allow themselves to become a Kabane, like that one pregnant woman who knew, and instead of voicing up or trying to do something about it, just tried to live in her couple of last moments and then became a Kabane. Ikoma, when he was bit, he was like, no, I've got to do something. I've been doing all this research, all this studying. It's time to put that into action. And he was about that action. He did it, and that's why he lived. So to me, I think there's a lot. You got to see that segment because there's a lot, and I think this is going to be a theme they're going to keep touching on. I've never really looked at Ikoma as a weak character. I've never looked at him as a weak person. I definitely don't see Mume as a weak character or a weak person. They're both strong people, but for some reason they both call themselves weak. And I think it's because of the situation they were in, but that situation isn't something that a weak person would be in. If they were weak, they would have been dead a long time ago. If they were weak, they would have died in that situation. And I think that they survived that situation because they are strong, especially Ikoma. What he does for Mume when she can't fight at a moment, so he goes and fights against insurmountable odds and survives. It just shows that Mume's judgment of him, she's undercrediting him. Ikoma is very powerful indeed, very determined as well, and very durable. And B, maybe Ikoma is starting to realize, it's better to do something than nothing. That's the mentality of a strong-minded person. That's the mentality of the strong. Do something. Just don't sit back and let things just happen to you. A very deep episode. So that's the video. I've talked way too long on this already, probably. I am trying to get my video down to about 15 minutes. 15 to 20 minutes, no more than 20, no less than 10, but ideally 15 minutes, maybe a little bit more, because I don't want to bore everybody with my videos. I mean, I talk a lot about the episode because I think a lot about them, which is probably why I've been slacking on getting videos for other series up that should have been up. Like I have Joker Games videos that I've recorded, I just need to edit the footage and post them up. I have my Iga videos that I've been slacking on posting those. Actually, I think I have a couple more episodes to catch up on. I might just do a video where I talk about the first 6 episodes of my Iga and let that be a 30-minute video. Same thing with ReZero and Stray Dogs. Because there's so many episodes, I don't know if I want to do each every episode for them. I might as well just do, my thoughts on the first 6 episodes of this, and this, and then from there on do videos. So I'll probably do that. Let me know what you thought about the video in the comments below. Let me know what you thought of episode 6 of Koutetsujou no Kabaneri in the comments below. If you have other theories, if you have feedback for me to improve the video, if you have questions about me or this anime or any anime period, if you have suggestions for other anime or manga you want to see me do videos on, I'm currently reading Kingdom. Kingdom is an amazing manga. If you've not read that, oh my god. I'll definitely be doing a video on Kingdom when I'm finished with Kingdom, or at least caught up. I might just do like every 100 chapters, I'll do a video, a 30-minute video on it. Kingdom is amazing, and then once I get caught up on Kingdom, I'm gonna be reading Vinland Saga as well as reading the other manga I read. I read Fairy Tail, I'll admit it, and I don't read Fairy Tail because I love the story or the way fights are handled because they're horrible. I read Fairy Tail because of the art. Like, it's very beautifully drawn, especially the women. I'll be honest, the women are amazingly drawn. Like, the most curvaceous and feminine yet strong female characters I've seen drawn in manga in a long time. They're all buxom, they all got the TNA on full, and I like that. The male characters look pretty cool too, like there's a bunch of cool looking characters as well, like male and female. Like, it's just very well drawn. And there's moments where it's like the fight scenes are pretty cool. but then they mess it up with the Power of Friendship garbage. I won't be doing videos on Fairy Tail. So I read Prison School just because I'm waiting for season 2 of that to start, and I'm gonna be hyped for that. I wanted to read Shogeki no Soma, but I stopped because I started the anime for that first, and the anime is amazing. And that's one of those things where I'm gonna watch the anime until the anime is done, and then I'll go back and read all the manga for that. Because that Food Wars is amazing. But yeah, I read a lot of manga now that I think about it. Rikugo, that comes out like once every month. Hajime no Ippo, because of course, that's me. Hajime no Ippo is my favorite anime and manga of all time, bar none. So, yeah, if you have any manga that you want me to read and make videos on, any anime you want me to read and make videos on, comment below. Just comment below with anything. I respond to comments all the time. If you have not already, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. That's the most important. Really, hit the subscribe button and spread the word to your friends, man. I want to do more on this channel, so I'm trying to get there. Again, I'm thankful for the people who've already supported you guys. It means a lot, so thank you. And as always, it's your boy Hated Greatness. Peace.